I don't think I need to separate the midwives because Madison, who's in the video with us, if I was just talking about CPMs, Madison didn't hire CPMs. She didn't even know what a CPM was until we met. Okay. She doesn't know what that title is. She doesn't know anything about it. I had to explain the differences of training because she doesn't know. Her state has them, but doesn't really have them. They're kind of sneaky sliding around. They're not illegal, but it's really weird of her state laws there. So she doesn't know what a CPM is. So I'm explaining that. That's because she hired nurse midwives. She hired nurse midwives who do the testing, the lab testing during pregnancy, do all the things you're supposed to get. So she had registered nurses that work at the hospital. Like they moonlighted and did all this stuff. And at her birth center, at the time she thought it was a birth center, she didn't find out until after her son died. It's not even an accredited birth center. There's a lot of stuff that this midwife doesn't work in a hospital for various reasons because she's not on board with hospital standards, with doctors, with what you're supposed to follow medically. So I can't say this is just CPMs and lay midwives because the reality is I know way too many lost mothers that have hired a nurse midwife.
Ghost Billy's a story about a nurse midwife too, a CNM. And yeah, but we were talking earlier this week on message, and I said the difference between doctors and nurses and midwives that the natural childbirth community accuses of looking for trouble is that, especially for Danielle, your midwife sent you for ultrasounds. And when the ultrasound showed that something was wrong, she essentially still stuck to her best case scenario. Baby's okay. Nothing's really wrong. We just need to induce, naturally, of course, not in the hospital. We just need to get labor going. That was her solution. And she sent you for a second ultrasound, and she still refused. She was still in the best case scenario, and you said she was in the operating room with you, and she was still in that best case scenario mindset. It's like a nurse or a midwife or a doctor doesn't look for trouble. They investigate anything that is not expected. If they do not, we do not expect to see no amniotic fluid in the third trimester. If we see this, we investigate it. If we investigate it and see that something is wrong, and no amniotic fluid is a sign that something is wrong, then we intervened to get the best possible outcome under the situation. If you are a midwife of any type and you see something that is not expected, and you don't investigate, or if you investigate and you see that there is something wrong and you do nothing, you are refusing to see trouble. You are completely blinkered. You are blinded. You will not see what is in front of your face. And so every time that an out-of-hospital birth says a child was unexpectedly stillborn or born not breathing or something else, all I can think of is all those midwives who refuse to see, who not only don't look for trouble, don't see trouble, and refuse to do anything about trouble. So those are the midwives we're talking about. It's not necessarily your credentials. You can have all the credentials in the world, but if you refuse to do anything, you are that midwife.
And you said that perfectly. That is exactly the issue. Is like I kept saying evidence-based. And it was like I needed to explain what evidence-based is. I don't know why I need to explain what evidence-based care is, but if you see something, if there's a warning sign and you have the training, or even if you think I don't have the training, but something's going on, you can switch them to it's out of scope of practice now. Let me get you to the proper care, to the proper person that's going to take care of you, because now we have connections between all these other things that we can do. There is ultrasounds, there is other doctors, there is advanced, there is specialists. We have all these things available. And the problem with lay midwives is they don't want to work with everybody available. Even if there was this bridge where they could call a doctor and call the hospital and they would let them in, majority of them won't do it because they just don't want to. They want to be, it's about me. It's about, it's kind of like an ego trip for some reason. It's like they are the provider. They're the only provider. And when things pop up and it's like, hey, you know what? It's out of scope of your practice. It's not low risk anymore. There is stuff going on with baby. There is stuff going on. You need to be sending them off. So evidence-based means, hey, I'm an OB, but you know what? This looks like something that requires more attention. So what does OB do? I send you to a specialist. I send you to labor and delivery. They do it all the time. I had my Rainbow, and guess what? Everything was fine. All my testing, everything was good. But my doctor still said, to be sure, and even if it's just comfort and relief because I've lost my first child and we know what happened there, she was like, just to be sure, I'm going to send you to a specialist so you can go get ultrasounds. You can go get any answers you want answered. And so that's what we did. So I went to a specialist, and that wasn't her saying I'm a bad doctor. That was her saying, honestly, my opinion, she was such a good doctor that she was like, I'm going to give you even better care. I'm going to even give you more of a comfort, more of relief, and also making sure that you are doing good and baby is doing good. And it was great. And yeah, we didn't have any problems and there was nothing going on. We did almost had baby early, but it worked out of the way that it did. But at the same time, it was great. We had a specialist that we could ask questions. We did ask questions about Gavin. We did ask questions about what did I do wrong? We did ask things about the body, and he was great. And she was great. We asked her a lot of questions, but they worked as a team. They knew each other, and it was great. They both were there for a delivery too. So that was even better. And at the end, when things went on, I got stress test done on baby. She was like, it's not that I don't like it, but I don't like it. You know what I mean? She was kind of like, I think we can do better to make sure. I'm going to send you to labor and delivery to get checked out. That's what she did. She didn't send us home and say, we'll check tomorrow. You know, let's do an ultrasound in a few hours. She didn't do that. She was like, you know what? I can see his heartbeat's good and I can see everything's good, but I just want to be sure. So I'm going to send you over here for extra monitoring, extra care. And that's what we did. We went and guess what? Everything was fine. And we went home. The next visit, same thing kind of happened, but it was like, that's kind of how it was, it was like, you know what? Things seem good, but just to be sure that things are good, I'm going to send you over here. We're going to do extra monitoring. And if things are good, you go home. If not, baby comes out and we make sure everyone is safe. And that's what medical care is. That's why we have medical care. We can advance things. We can do things that we never did before. We have glasses, we have dentists, we have all these different things to make us healthy, to do things, to have a better life, to have, enjoy our life. So that's my thing when it comes to midwives, is there is this idea of doing things in the supernatural way. But if we did things in a supernatural way, diabetics would die, because they're not getting the medicine that they need. They're not getting the testing. They're not getting taken care of. And that's horrible. We would have a lot of things would be really bad for a lot of people in different ways. And that really bothers me that I brought up about like advance with time, because it's now 2021. We are medically advanced. We are scientific. We have all these advancements. We're not like, I don't know, I think a baby comes out of there. Like, we know a lot of things about this. So it's kind of like move with the times. If you have this idea with midwives of like, I don't know, just vaginal at all cost is what we've always said. But it's like, it doesn't have to be that way anymore. Your baby doesn't have to die, and you don't have to die, and you don't have to be in pain. And something that I will bring up of the opposite of this is, as much as people were mad at me for not bringing up about nurse midwives and whatever, I'm glad I left it blank. And I didn't bring up CPMs and I didn't bring up lay midwifery because, excuse me, I had a lot of women reach out to me and tell me about their experiences with nurse midwives in hospitals. And I was very disappointed at the things that I heard.
Well, to go along with that, I noticed that the care that I have seen some of the nurse midwives in hospitals, and that's all the only place they practice. When my nephew was being born, we saw every single one of the midwives because the labor was 30 some hours and then ended up being a C-section. Baby was a week overdue. And we know that the chances of having a spontaneous vaginal delivery are lower if the longer you wait after your due date. And only one of the midwives, but she was the most vocal, she kept saying, no, you want to do this naturally. I had my child at home and I was 3 weeks overdue. You want to do this naturally. As my sister-in-law said, I'd like an epidural, break my water if you have to, give me some Pitocin, because that's what the other nurse midwives are saying. This is the plan of care. We will do it this way. And the one nurse midwife was like, no, you want to do this as naturally as possible. And I thought, no, we don't. This isn't back in the day when it was useful to have a little bit of knowledge about the process of pregnancy and birth. That was good enough back then. Now we have specialists, and this is the only thing they do. We are worthy, any pregnant or laboring person is worthy of the correct and evidence-based care.
And that's why we even really you think about it. That's why we get together to do the videos, is to let people know you're worth it. You know what I mean? You're worth the care. If it is available to you, take it, because there is other countries where it's not available of the things that we have, the advances and stuff that we have. And it's sad because we live in America and we have all this stuff and we're so advanced, but we don't know anything. There's so much stuff. We have the internet, but yet so many of us don't know anything. There's so much misinformation because we have this population that's doing exactly like you just said, Marissa. There's somebody in the hospital saying, I was 3 weeks overdue. Why would you ever say that in the hospital? Ever? Where is there a time and a place to say you were 3 weeks overdue? Well, that's great that it worked out for you, or hopefully it worked out for you. But guess what? This lady right here, it might not work out for her. We just don't know. And why are we taking those risks and those chances when we have evidence, when we have science, we have medicine? We're advanced now. We don't have to take those kinds of risks and chances anymore. There's a difference of not knowing, and there's a difference of we know, so we should be doing better. We should be improving.